Okay, we're maintaining all the good stuff of social distancing. We're all on camera and everybody's got their mics muted until voting time. I'm calling the Warsaw Board of Zoning Appeals to order for the December 28th meeting. We're going to open with the approval of the November 23rd meeting minutes. We have a comment and or motion for those minutes.
Mr. President, I have reviewed the minutes, and if there are no further questions or comments, I move to approve.
Thank you, Rick. Seconded by?
I'll second.
Jeff.
Was that Dan?
That was Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you. I think it might help to announce your name because I don't know how well Kim does on going through this. Item number 3, unfinished business. Johnny, do we have any?
There is no unfinished business at this time.
Thank you, sir. Approval of the 2021 schedule. I assume everyone's taken a look at that. It's on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. President, I point out that I think we've got to approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good point. And I got to do the roll call vote. Thank you, Rick. Rick, you approve.
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I also approve the minutes carry unanimously. Thank you, Rick. I didn't miss that. Oh, and by the way, just a reminder, I had a note on that. Your mics are live, so remember, careful what we say. Okay, thank you. We finished unfinished business. How about the schedule? Is everybody okay with the schedule? I don't think we need a motion for that. If we've got any problems, let's hear it.
I approve. Dan.
Okay. Dan, Jeff, Rick, I thought I heard you say it.
I approve.
We'll go ahead with the schedule, open the meeting to the first item, which is 2020 December 01, 802 Buffalo Street, use of variance to allow a campground in a C2 and R1. Just for a point of order, how is it a C2 and an R1? Right?
There are actually 2 parcels involved in this request.
So that the application is for land that is on inside an R1 zone district?
C2. So if you flip to attachment 1, the aerial photography, the primary entry point would be in a C2. It's the eastmost parcel in that picture, and then the westmost parcel is rezoned R1.
Okay. Before we go any further on that, Johnny, do you want to read the notes on this petition?
Yes, sir. The petitioner has requested a use variance to allow for a campground in a C2. The lot is currently used as a commercial garage, and adjoining lot is vacant/unused. Campgrounds are not listed in the table of permitted uses. Therefore, its status shall be determined by the Board of Zoning Appeals as outlined in the municipal code. The only existing campground in the city is Pike Campground. The petitioner plans to create a campground that would have 13 campsites, laundry facilities, shower facilities, and an office. In order to be permitted, the campground would need to be in line with all state code, including ADA compliance, electrical plumbing, and any relevant state releases. The preliminary plan for the campground has been provided to the board members as provided by the petitioner. The neighborhood is an area characterized by the transition between residential and commercial uses. To the south and west is predominantly residential, and to the north and east is predominantly commercial. The lot is visible from both the residential and commercial areas. The comprehensive plan shows the area for community vitality. The purpose of community vitality land classification is to establish an area for mixed-use, community-serving commercial development. Appropriate land uses include retail, service, office, entertainment, restaurant, institutional, and top-floor residential. One letter has been received from a concerned neighbor. The neighbor lives near the property and expressed concerns that the proposed lot is not large enough to support a campground, the impact seasonal patrons would have on the area, and the noise, garbage, and campfire smoke potentially generated by a campground. The recommendation of the planning board is as follows. Due to the concerns raised by the neighbors, conflict with the comprehensive plan, and potential land use nuisances, the planning department does not recommend the board look favorably upon this request. Thank you.
Johnny, other than the one letter, was there a mailing and any other comments?
There were mailings. We received no other comments by letter, although there was an an error in the mailing. It was not updated for our COVID policy, so we do have 3 audience members here to speak, so you are aware.
I need to, you're in the audience, you happen to know, are they here for something other than the item 1 on the agenda, which we're talking about now? You know?
All 3 of you are here for that, yes.
Okay.
They are all here for this item.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Johnny. That helps me a lot. With that, before we open it to the public and to the petitioner, are there any questions or comments from the Board of Zoning Appeals? Rick?
No.
Dan?
No.
Jeff?
No.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will open it up to the petitioner, who I believe is present somewhere via the video audience, and we're all very used to. Alan, I think you're ready to speak. Could you go ahead and address the zoning board? However, before you get too carried away with that, I see we do have other people on board. Keep in mind that the Board of Zoning Appeals is a government agency, and we are limited by what we can approve and what we should approve based on our own judgment and points of fact. But we do need to keep the petition and the comment focused on what we're dealing with specifically, which in this case is a campground and a speak to an R1. Okay, Al, please go ahead and give us your summary of the petition.
And be sure to unmute Alan.
I think he's trying now.
Is he unmuted?
Not yet.
If you hover over your screen, you'll see a white bar come up with a microphone at the bottom that should be crossed out right now.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Okay, for the opportunity to present this to you tonight. And first of all, I'd like to dispel a few of the objections as far as sound. The design is to take a piece of unused land, which currently has brought some neighborhood complaints at times, because it seems people like to walk through the property and hang out back there at times. So we're looking at taking what is currently a bit of a problem piece of land and creating something that is state-of-the-art RV campground that is designed for people who can, you know, maybe they have their grandchildren here or whatnot, and they can come and park in a state-of-the-art place with all the conveniences, everything they would like to have, and spend some quiet time there. There will be definite rules and regulations regarding that, as well as all of the standard things the state requires in a campground, which is pretty thorough. As I have been reading and working through that. It will be designed by an architect that does exactly this, but it will have retaining walls at the top and at the bottom, basically all around, made out of those cages that you put river rock or stone in, so it will not change any of the lay of the land, but it will create a sound barrier. No issues whatsoever with that. As to smoke, I don't know what to speak to there. I don't see any reason to have any concern down that line because of the lay of the land. So yeah, that I think is major questions that have been raised. I did have one neighbor come over and actually talk to me, and we had a good conversation. He was happy with the process. But we do have complaints about that right now. We do make something nice back there, and this seemed like a very excellent concept, because as was stated, there really isn't much available, and they run out of spaces in Warsaw. And we do want this summer tourism, and it's helpful for the community. So I guess that's what I had to present.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate your comments and remedy that you did that in the summary. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this petition? It's either on the phone or in the audience. This is speaking in favor.
So I believe we still do need to do the phone number made
Yeah,
available.
I know that we did, but I just didn't know if anybody had already gotten to that. So let's go ahead and give out the phone number.
So that phone number to join into this Google call would be 1-240-617-0140. Again, that's 1-240-617-0140. And then upon entering the call, you'll be prompted for a PIN. If you can't see that on the live stream, that PIN is 560-600-241. Again, that's 560-600-241. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a moment.
Justin, I believe they do have to use the hash mark for the pound sign as well, correct?
I believe when you're done entering, yes, press pound.
Oh, I see.
And by the way, when we publicize these meetings, do we give this phone number out in advance?
Not currently. The updating the mailing and the advertisement for our COVID guidelines is definitely something we're going to look at for next month, so that there aren't any
I highly
confusions.
recommend it, and let's speed it up. And by the way, for anyone who is listening that's going to come in on the phone, we're only going to do the 2-minute break. We're down to below a minute for that, for you to call in. And that's whether you're for or against, just announce that you are taken live into the meeting. And there's no one in the audience that has so far indicated that they're speaking in favor of or against.
None.
Is that in favor of anyone?
None in favor.
Okay, very good. All right, we're down to about 20 seconds. There are a 2-minute time frame for the open phone calls. Okay, with that, because we do have people who want to speak in the council room, we can probably go ahead and get that started. We'll close it to those in favor and open that up to anyone in the petition who would like to speak against this. I believe someone is coming in. Johnny, would you please remind them, in case they can't hear me, to give their name clearly for the press that I believe is listening, and proceed with their brief comments.
All right, good evening. My name is Nicholas Prater. I have an adjoining property to the property located at 802 Buffalo Street. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had a bunch of notes and everything prepared, but I think that just kind of talking with you straight, I've lived at this property for 10 years now, going on 11. I've got a young daughter that loves to play in the backyard, and as I've lived there, I've watched this property in dispute go from a really nice wooded lot with trees, deer, wildlife, and everything, go to a desolate lot that's surrounded by about 1 meter tall dirt piles filled with dirt such as concrete, plastic, and construction trash. This occurred over the course of the last year when all the trees were cut down. If you immediately go west of that lot, in a property I do believe in, which is an adjoining property that Mr. Hoyt does own as well, there are abandoned cars in the woods. And I can only wonder if this is the condition that he's leaving the land now, if he's allowed to make this into a campground, what kind of condition is he going to maintain with that? I also have some concerns because he mentioned that the lot was open right now, and I would like to ask the council, do you know that the lot's not actually open now, that there's actually a mobile home placed on it, that there is a concrete slab, And under that concrete slab, there's a 3 to 4 inch PVC pipe going into the ground. I didn't see any sewage trucks. I didn't see any trenching. I could give you, if you would like, the pages of code of ordinances that he's breaking, but I don't really think I need to do that. I feel like Mr. Hoyt essentially said, I'm going to do this. He didn't care what zoning said. But then the concerned people of the neighborhood about groundwater, about pollution, and about destruction of natural environments, we're concerned. Where is that sewage going? Is he properly maintaining this? I don't think that the lot would even sustain 5 campsites, much less 13. We're talking, this is less than half an acre in the city. So my concerns are that this will not help the community, and it is just merely an attempt for Mr. Hoyt to subvert the zoning laws. Again, my name is Nicholas Prater, and I do thank you gentlemen for your time.
Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak
Yes.
on the petition?
Hi, my name is Mary Gerhardt. Mine's a little bit more simple than Nick's. This lot is in our backyard. When things started changing, we now have mounds of dirt in our view from our backyard. It does have things in it that aren't just dirt, and they've just been left there to go wild. So I too have concerns. I also have concerns about having a campground that I will see every day out my back window. So if for some reason this would be passed, I think it needs to be passed with regulations about what barriers will be made, and they would have to be better beautification barriers than what was currently stated, because this is what we all see out our back window, and it is currently not pretty, and I don't see a campground making it any prettier than it currently is. So we are opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. I'm sorry I couldn't hear your last name, so we're gonna get familiar. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this petition?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. Did we have anybody on the phone that wanted to speak on this particular petition?
I do not see that anyone has joined this call, which is the number we gave out, so.
Okay. Very good. Well, in that case, if there's no other comments, we'll close the meeting to the public. And the Board of Zoning Appeals will now review and act upon this petition.
Mr. President, Rick Heeman, I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Hoyt, do you plan on having children in these campsites? Oh, he's got a sound off.
There he is.
Yes, it would be, obviously it would be a family campground, yes.
Well, as I look at the one that's at Pike Lake, there are things for kids to do. You've got, you know, lakes and boating and room to run around and playgrounds and beach. It's not clear to me what's going to happen when you've got kids on this small lot, 13 campsites, and these kids get bored. My concern is the first thing they're going to do is start wandering around on neighboring properties and out towards Highway 15. What did you have in mind for these people, for kids, that's going to keep them entertained while they're there?
Primarily, their campsite and the amenities that you would normally have there, as far as and they're sizable campsites, so there is potential to do something on them. I am also in talks, and there will, and assuming we can move forward, I am able to purchase a tract behind that, which I think was mentioned by some there as if it were mine, but it is not. So a lot of the things that were mentioned about what happens back there are actually not on my piece. So whatever, for whatever it's worth. But I am able to purchase a piece back further, which would allow me to add in some other, playgrounds and things, that can be, like you say, somewhere where the thing that children can do, like a volleyball court as well. So that's in the phase 2.
Okay, then my second and last question would be, you talked about barriers with river rock. What would be the height of the barrier between your property and the surrounding properties, particularly the residential properties? How much of a barrier would there be between, for their line of sight?
So on the one side, for their line of sight, they're nowhere near. The properties will have absolutely no change to their line of sight. They do not see this piece back in there. What they do see of this piece, I've had complaints about. And that's what a large motivating factor to make this productive and not sore to their backyards. As far as the mounds, that part of that will be moved as well. It's just, I wish they had come to me with that, but that caught me by surprise in this meeting. I did not know that was a problem. It was during previous construction, but that will all go into fill, so that will all go away. Nobody's backyard will be in any way affected visually by this campground. And there will be a barrier of that retaining wall to the Wildman uniform side, which will, hide Wildman uniform and the sound that comes from it from the campground.
That concludes my questions, Mr. President.
I can't hear Alan. Tom's muted. Hey, Tom, we can't hear you.
That's because I was on mute.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan, for your comments, and I did ask if anyone else on the board of zoning appeals, but nobody could hear me, so is there any other questions? Ann or?
Yes.
Jeff?
I'd like
Go ahead.
to ask Alan, have you spoken to Josh Wildman or anybody over there about this?
I have. I spoke with Josh, and he's waiting. I spoke to him about the campground and as well about a stretch behind that, which could potentially communicate to another street as well. Yeah, he had no issues with it. His issue is, are they gonna like the sound of my business? But that would be taken care of by the retaining wall. And he's just waiting for markers to be placed on the ground to make a decision as to pulling another portion back there.
All right, thank you, Alan. And I assume that, Dan, did you have another question or comment?
No, not at this time.
All right, thank you. Jeff, did you have anything that you wanted to cover?
No.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Jonathan, I'm sorry you couldn't hear me before. My one question was, where is, as this petition covers C2 and R1, where is that overlap for the R1? I'm not sure I'm picking it up on this overlay.
Are you taking a look at the aerial image that's included currently?
Sorry, could you say that again, please?
Are you looking at attachment 1, the aerial photograph from the comments?
Yes, I am.
So the parcel touching the road, touching Buffalo, that is the C2. And then the one to the left of that is the R1.
And how much, just to be very clear, how much of that second outline of the R1 will be used for the campsite?
From what I could tell from the plans provided, it was all of it. Alan may be able to clarify.
I I believe that you're still in unit, what we're really asking is, it looks like to me, and from what I've gathered on this, that the area of the campground you're actually proposing is an R1. And that's my point of clarification. I want to make sure that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
By the way, Alan, I understand your problem with it. I shut the darn thing off, hitting the wrong one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Todd, did you have a question, sir?
The R1 area, to my knowledge, is just southeast as the drive up. The lot in back, I thought was C2, is it not?
No.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Jonathan, can you help Alan and I out on this? It sounds like there's confusion there.
I can pull up the GIS for it now to clarify.
Hold on, guys. He's doing computer stuff.
Jonathan, you know exactly what I'm talking about is that second section that's, as you said, to the left on the aerial photograph.
Yeah, that's an R1, it says.
So I'm going to share my screen for a moment to clarify that aerial view. So here's the property we're talking about. This one I've highlighted is the current business. This one is the R1 in question.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where, is there anywhere for you to use your arrow and show us where the campground is proposed?
From the plans I was provided, it looked to be proposed coming back here and through here.
So, it sounded like from Alan's previous comments, he didn't know that he was about to build a campsite in a currently zoned R1 district. Is that correct?
Is that for me? Sorry. It looks like it is an R1. I had not actually caught that because the trap I'm in C2 and R2. It doesn't connect to any R1.
I'm not sure how that happened. I assume.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for the meeting tonight's purposes, I think the Board of Zoning Appeals is being asked to allow you to build a campground on an R1.
Okay.
And I don't think that one is feasible. I'm not sure what the legalities of that would be, but that sounds like we shouldn't do that. Those are my thoughts and comments. All right, with that, I think that covers any other questions or comments. And Alan, if you have another closing comment, you're welcome to do it at this time.
Well, I'm not sure I have a closing.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, with that, we're going to close the meeting, and we will entertain a motion on 2012-01 case number.
This is Jeff, Tom. I'm gonna make a motion that we deny this request. I just don't think that, being an R1 for the most part is just not gonna work, and I'm not sure that zoning that is, to a point where we can put a campground back there is the best use of that land, so I'm gonna make a motion that we deny this.
Thank you, Jeff. So motion, do we have a second?
Second.
This is,
Okay. Is that Dan, I believe?
Yep.
All right. We have a motion that's been seconded. Do a roll call vote. Rick?
I agree with the motion, I deny the request.
Thank you, Rick. Dan, you are also in that.
Yeah, I deny it.
And Jeff, you made the motion. I assume you're there. I also deny the request, particularly for the R1. That motion carries as a denial of the application. Sorry about that, sir, but that That now concludes the business of 2012-01. Moving on to the next petition, which is 2012-02, 415 North Washington Street, variance from development standards to allow for additional lot. Johnny, would you please give us the notes?
All right, we received, the mailings went out and the newspaper ad was published and we received no comments.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate that. Any questions before we open the meeting up to the petitioner from the Board of Zoning Appeals, Rick?
Well,
Is this an addition to the current building, and that's what we're talking about?
I'll read through my comments really quick if I may, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this case is 1202 and 1203 are related, but can be passed separately, and we do need to make sure we vote on them separately. So there's a case for each one. Just for that's the procedure we need to follow. But I am going to sort of present content from both of them. First, we're going to look at paving the area. This is number 2020-1202. The petitioner has requested a variance from development standards to allow for additional lot coverage beyond what is allowed in the zoning code. R3s allow a maximum impervious lot coverage of 65%. Proposed addition would take the lot coverage somewhere between 70 and 75%. In order to meet parking minimums, the petitioner intends to pave a portion of the side and rear yard. The parking plan is included in the attachments, which I encourage you all to take a look at. The purpose of the land coverage requirement is to manage stormwater runoff as well as to maintain the character of the neighborhood. The city engineer has indicated that granting of this variance would not negatively affect stormwater runoff in the area. The adjacent northern property is a wholesale business with significant lot coverage. The purpose of this variance request is twofold. One, currently, the residents are parking in front of the house in an unpaved front yard. This yard is within the public right-of-way and should not count towards the total number of spaces available per unit, and could be removed if further roadway expansion or other alterations to the right-of-way were made. Secondly, if the next case is granted, which I believe would be beneficial to consider and discuss before granting this case as well, or before voting on this case, additional parking spaces would be required for the proposed additional unit. Refer to the findings of the following case for further details on the second proposal requested to be passed at the same time as this one. So I'm going to go ahead and read the notes from 03 now, if that's okay with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I was a bit confused as I was looking at this, trying to figure out how we were gonna dice it up.
Right. So in the past, we have taken and looked at these kind of combination variances all at once, but for procedural purposes, it's more important we split them and have separate comments and votes to make sure those separate votes are made. And with this particular case, there is opportunity to allow one and not the other. The petitioner has requested a variance from development standards to allow for a higher density of units than currently allowed. The petitioner would like to convert an existing building, a garage, into a fourth dwelling unit. R3 regulations require 8,500 square feet of lot for the first two units in a home, followed by an additional 1,500 square feet per unit. 4 units, therefore, would require 11,500 square foot lot. The lot is currently around 8,700 feet. This is the square footage of the lot itself. It has nothing to do with the interior building square footage. There would be no additional lot coverage aside from the paving requested in the previous case. So there will be no additions built to the exterior of the building. The purpose of an R3 district is to provide high-density residential areas within the community. The neighborhood is characterized primarily by single and two-family homes. The existing 2- and 3-family homes in the area exceed the density requirements already. So, as I was saying, these two sort of go together, as you can tell from the description. For the first case, the case on paving, It is the opinion of the planning department that regardless of the voting on case number 3, this one could be viewed favorably because it would remove the non-conforming parking from the right-of-way, and it does not negatively impact stormwater runoff.
Well, let's take those independently as well for all practical purposes. I think it's better to handle it that way. And I would assume that if we don't approve this particular case, that would negatively impact the next case. Is that correct, John?
Correct. In that case, the petitioner would likely need to return to try to petition for, if they wish to continue, to petition for less spaces than required by the ordinance.
And the point of clarification, I think your comment said that the density has already been exceeded in this particular area.
Could you?
Talking about
Yeah, it's,
square footage?
Yes, so this is, the building is already beyond the square footage density for, are you speaking on lot coverage or density per unit currently?
I thought you said that the density per unit in the area, are you talking about just specifically to this plot? Or are you talking about in the area itself?
So, the area itself already, there are existing 2 and 3 family homes on lots that the current ordinance would not allow that to be on without a variance. So there is already a higher
Those are
density.
grandfathered in.
Yes.
Okay, that's the point of clarification that I wanted to have. All right. Thank you, Johnny. That concludes my comments. Rick, did you have any questions or comments before we go?
Is this gonna preclude the parking on the front yard, or is that gonna continue?
So this will not necessarily remove parking from the front yard. However, if the city were to pursue changes to the right-of-way that would remove that parking, this would ensure there are still, enough spots available, because that is another issue that has been the result of grandfathering in the code.
Johnny, is that part of your plan for the future?
There are currently no planned roadway expansions for the future.
Okay, thank you. Rick, did that conclude your comments, by the way? All right.
It did.
All right, very good. Dan, did you have any questions or comments?
yes, I looked at this plan, and I have a real problem with those 3 parking spaces that are allocated on the west side of the garage. There's no way in thunder that he's going to be able to put 3 cars in there, because the distance from the wall of the garage to the tree trunk is probably 20 to 22 feet. And if a car is 17 feet long, it's not going to fit in there. You might get 1, maybe 2 cars in there, but I don't agree with this drawing.
Johnny, would you like to address that?
So I have not taken the exact measurements myself there. From this drawing, it had looked acceptable, but this is again something that when it's going through the permitting process for the building itself, this is something we would look into.
It would come under further scrutiny, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
From what I've reviewed, it looks up to our code.
All right, Dan, that's a great question. I appreciate the observation. Would that affect how you would vote on this first one?
I think that's it on the first one.
All right, very good. Jeff, did you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Just to be clear on Dan's question, Johnny, it does have to pass further scrutiny, is that correct on this, whether we approve it or not?
Well, it would need to be billed to any technical drawings provided to us. So yes.
Dan's point is correct, it would not go farther as well until it's addressed.
And this is something I can communicate with the petitioner.
Okay. Very good. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this particular petition?
Hi, yes, I'm Margaret Harkin, I'm the homeowner.
Okay, go ahead. And your name, please?
Margaret Hawkins.
Okay, thank you, Margaret.
So I imagine this will depend on whether or not the variance is approved on the next petition, is that correct?
Well, the first petition is actually just dealing with the paving and the parking situation. It sounds like it needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay, so either way, the parking will need to be dealt with, correct? Currently, the tenants are parking in the front, which is technically public property, that is correct?
That's
Johnny, you
correct.
want to answer that? Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Go ahead, Margaret.
It's a bit, very good. So I'd like to speak just about the current situation of what we're looking to change. Currently, there is a very large RV garage that is, I believe it used to be used for commercial purposes by the previous owners, and they then moved their business next door to a very, very large warehouse pretty close to the property. That RV garage is pretty unusable. It's massive, and I feel like we could really better the property, better the neighborhood by changing this into a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment home with also a 2-car garage. So that would also help with the parking situation because there would be a garage parking as well for the family that would live there. I was looking at the area right around 1 to 2 mile radius of our current property, and there's just not a lot of rentals available. I know that the job growth in Warsaw is increased 8% from 2017 to 2018, and there's more job growth expected at least 2% per year in Warsaw. So I do feel like we can help fulfill a need for nice housing for potential employees and potential new citizens of the Warsaw area.
Thank you, Margaret. I assume that concludes your comments.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Please come back to mute if you would, please. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this particular petition? And Johnny, we've already done the phone, as I understand it. Do you want to do that one more time?
Yeah, just a quick point of clarification that came up in the chamber here is, Margaret, if you're still on the line with us, when you said a 3-unit, did you mean, because I believe currently there are 3 units in the building, and this would be adding a unit, so that would turn this into a 4-unit home, correct?
Correct. I meant 3-bedroom, sorry, 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit.
Okay.
That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Like for a family, like a size for a family.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Johnny, the one that's called in?
Yes, so once again, that number is 240-617-0140, and that PIN to enter is 560-600-241#. Again, that's 1-240-617-0140 with a PIN of 560-600-241#. And I'll leave that up on the screen here.
Thank you, Johnny. And for the audience, again, that is whether you're in favor of or in opposition to this specific petition, and we have one more to go.
This is an office.
All right, Johnny, I think we've come to the 2-minute marker on that, so with that, we'll move on. I believe we've covered the audiences, both public and on the phone or in the room. With that, we will close the meeting to the public, and we will vote specifically on item 12-2002. With that, is there a motion for that?
Rick Keevan, I'll move to approve.
No motion and seconded,
I'll second. Jeff?
seconded by Jeff Johnson. Roll call vote. Dan, do you approve?
No.
Everyone opposed? Jeff, you approve?
Yes.
Rick, you approve?
Yes.
I also approve. I believe that motion still carries. With that, we'll move on to the next one, which is the 2003. Johnny, would you go ahead? I think you sent, or you've already addressed most of the comments. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
So to add to that, it is important the board consider the purpose of the density ordinance carefully, as well as the context of the site. The living unit density requested would be a significant increase. However, no additional building footprint would be added. This fact, combined with the existing traffic generated from the neighboring commercial property, leads the planning department to believe granting this variance would not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. The building would still be required to be brought up to any fire codes, building codes, and other relevant requirements for living quarters. And in conjunction to the previous concern about parking, less spaces would be added to that lot if this one were not permitted. Because that is the one you were concerned about is showing for the maximum number of spaces needed. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, it's the opinion of the planning department that this board, or that this request could be viewed favorably. It is just important to consider those purposes and those considerations mentioned.
Thank you, John, for the clarification. I assume there was a mailing as well on both. And
Correct. And we received no
We've already gone
letters.
through the phone call for this. I believe that is covered unless there's an objection from Johnny or the board. With that, we will open it up to anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition.
Hi again, Margaret Hockett.
Okay, go ahead, Margaret.
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to reiterate that there's already the existing structure present. We wouldn't be adding any more coverage on the lot. The building is already there. We would just be improving the inside of it. That's all.
Thank you, Margaret, for your good comments. Appreciate that. I think we have one more petitioner who would like to speak on this particular one. Could you give us your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Rafael, and I'm the husband actually for Margaret. We are
Okay.
in different places right now. But I just want to point it out in that case, we acquired the property a year ago, and the property had a low sign in the area, and it was already with a lot of problems with permits, in the city. And we redo the whole property. We reinvest, in the property. We bring the whole property to code. We did 15 fire walls, in the property. We trying to bring that property to code in the city. And when the idea about to have another building, also is to be able to bring the whole parking area to code also. Just pointed that out, to reinvest in the property, try to bring the property to the city code.
Thank you, Rafael. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else left that we haven't covered? And by the way, Dan, I believe your mic is live, sir. I can hear you in the background.
Who?
You.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, I don't know who I'm hearing then. It sounded like your voice for my.
Nope, not me.
I forgive the intrusion. All right, with that, I believe we've covered the public part of it. We will close it to the public. Any other questions or comments from the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Mr. President, this is Rick. I live one block south of there, and I'm familiar with the property. I guess on the whole, I would consider it an improvement, and take that kind of big garage that Joe McKee had for his, I don't know, his milk truck or fuel truck, I forget what it was he had there. But they were to integrate that into one nice-looking apartment complex. I would consider that to be a positive, to kind of get rid of that big old garage sort of thing.
Very good. Any other comments from the board? Jeff or Dan?
No.
All right, with that, let's go forward with a motion. We have a motion for 1203
Rick, you can move to approve.
So moved by Rick Keeman, seconded by Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Let's do the roll call vote. Dan, you also agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jeff's mic is muted.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Jeff.
No, I agree.
You approve, Rick, I assume you approve?
Yes.
I also approve. That motion carries unanimously. With that, we will, I think, move on to the next item on the agenda, which is other matters that may come before the board. All right, with that, any other matters, Johnny?
There are no other matters at this time.
All right, thank you very much. We have one last motion. Jeff, you're actually on mute, but I think I read your lips that you made a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Now I will make a motion that we close.
All right, very good. Do we have a second?
Second by Rick Keegan.
Rick Keevan, Dan, you also agree? I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
We stand to an adjournment. Very good. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott, for joining.
So, Rick,